Sorry. Gotta put on my hat. Fun. Post. Thumbs up. Can't type today. All right, my friends, this is chapter 5, the continuation and finishing of what was supposed to be chapter 4, but I decided to cut chapter 4, what was my original chapter 4, which was like 20 pages long, and I was not going to finish that. Where I stopped yesterday was actually like the middle of chapter 4. I have like 8 pages left after this, and chapter 4. Now chapter 5. So, with all, let's get rolling. Chapter 5. This is the new chapter 5 starting right here. Oh, by the way, book 1, I am about ready to go public with it. I'm waiting for my publisher to send me back the finalized copy, edited copy to finalize so they can send it out for publishing. However that means, I don't understand it. But I'm excited. I'm very close to publishing a book. I'm never done this before today. I've written stuff, never got them published. I even have another story, nothing related to this saga I wrote. It was actually an alternate history of World War One. If anybody's interested, I'll read that one day. You might like it. But it's not even in print, it's handwritten, all of it. I have drawings, I have all kinds of stuff to go with the books. And I do mean books. I don't know how many books I have written, but I have a lot in that story, in that saga. But I digress. On to chapter 5. No, my new chapter that I called in here. This was a continuation of chapter 4 right here. From this point forward upwards is chapter 4. This down is chapter 4. I ended the chapter, and this is a new chapter right here. All right, so chapter 5. I demand that you recall our scorpions now, Empress Delivanov yells out. We are trying to recall our fighters, Excellency, but the rebels have pulled them away from the fleet. Admiral Thierry Delan says over his comm channel. They have more ships on their side, sire, and they have managed to divert some of our scorpions away from the station. All right. If you do not do as you are told, I will ensure that you gain first-hand experience with the vacuum of space. Am I clear? The Emperor demands as he looks on at the battle beyond the escorts of his fleet. Delan's face pales on the overhead monitor as the Emperor sits on his throne. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of his anger. He already had one man's tongue cut out. Yes, Excellency, the Admiral calls as the screen goes black. Delan is on his personal supercruiser among the fleet, but his ship has already suffered severe damage so far in the battle. He has blood running down his face from a wound to his forehead. Smoke filled the command deck of the cruiser. Behind the Admiral, all across the deck, steel and clear like thin steel sheets littered the floor with some bodies. Not a good thing. But then a heavy missile strikes the forward viewports of the command deck and explodes, killing all instantly, sucking the Admiral out into the vacuum of space in a second. Not a good day for that Admiral, is it? Sorry. As the command ship explodes, Levanov and her two children disembark from a lift. The kids are still shackled in front, but can easily be broken when needed. Their weapons are in the hands of their mother, Princess Erwina, formerly known as Livnowski. But I didn't add that. That was just something I just had to add. But not so easily accessible to twins via easily accessible to the twins via their telekinesis skills. In other words, being able to move objects with their mind. A quartet of 7-foot tall Imperial guards meets them. But Erwina waves them aside with her hand. Who do we have here, Princess? I recognize Princess Julia Lurkin of Centauria Prime. Centauria Prime. I can't talk today. The Emperor says, and who is their companion? I am Fleet Admiral Sir T. Stephen Thomas Spears, Your Excellency. Stephen spits out the last words. I am also the man who destroyed your vaunted Dark Star Tiger 4. My favorite character in the whole series. You're the most wanted man in the Empire, the Emperor growls flatly as he rises to his fleet. Damn, I'm tired. I just came in from working outside. And I'm tired, I can't talk straight. So excuse me if I can't talk. They are also my children, whom I thought had died when I destroyed the royal palace on Ukrainia Prime. Erwina says, smiling in a mask now. She pulls her sword from a gun belt and activates it. Change that letter to an S, not a D. Producing a pink blade, where for some 20 years it has been black. No more. We are here to end this war and your reign, Stephen says flatly as the sword hilt flies into his hand and Julia retrieves hers from her mother as well. All three stand back to back, swords in hand, blades activated. Blue, pink, and pink. Now I just added those. As more of the Black Guard march into the throne room, long, heavy staffs at the ready. But the children and the mother and her children stand back to back and take on the guards. You may think you will end this war and kill me, Admiral, Stilvanov says through gritted teeth. He's got a lot of teeth. But you will not finish the war alive. My vaunted guards will eliminate you before you can come after me. But you must know I have my own dark arts skills at my back. So I think I can eliminate you personally. Be careful. He has a double-ended samurai sword. Erwina beams. Thank you, Mom. The kids beam back as one. All right. Drink break. Oh, no, let's finish this one section. Let's stay away from that. There's. Hold on. What did I miss here? I'm missing something here. Chapter 7, page 37, page 38. Okay, I gotta add a line here. Okay, let me start that over again. Thank you, Mom. The kids being back as one. As more Black Guard walk into the throne room. Stay away from there. Hold on, I gotta change one little thing again. Capitalized S. Stay away from their staff. They are razor sharp and heavy Irwina beams. I think we can defeat the Emperor if we work together as a family. They watch as the Emperor pulls out a long, double ended samurai sword and activates it, producing two obsidian black blades at both ends. From beneath his cloak, he had it clipped to his gun belt. Then, as he engaged the Imperial Guard, a dozen enhanced troopers marched into the throne room. Their weapons deployed and ready for action. However, the Imperial guards pose no threat to the Spanlighter family, as either down and dead or missing their heads. Some run through the body. But yeah, I have a really bad day, aren't these guys? We need to end this war right here, right now. Sep teacher calls over his radio. We have the upper hand, Sep. Hannah says, nodding as she operates the main cannons under the eagle's nose, taking out another flight of scorpions as they zoom in among the Imperial fleet. Behind them, rebel troops man the main cannons in the ventral and dorsal positions of the eagle, even as another fleet of imperial vessels join the fight. Join the fight. Scratch that. Sorry. Join the fight to no avail. I'm just tired today. The rebel fleet. The rebel fleet outguns and outnumbers the Imperials. I just not having fun reading today. I can't think straight. Sorry, I gotta take a break for a minute. All right, I know Hannah, but the Emperor has not deployed the Dark Star in his main weapon yet. Sep says, but as he says as a squadron of 12 rebel cruisers is taken out by the primary weapons array from the Dark Star. Whoops. We know it's operational. Look what was used. Look at what was used. Look at what used to be Planet Pan. The planet Pan. I know, Admiral. Hannah says his energy beam came from the battle station this time. But then the station comes to life and takes out a dozen rebel vessels and a dozen of its own protective Imperial fleet in the process. It's a primary weapon. Finally lets its presence be known. Okay, I gotta go back and change a little something here. Okay. Okay, start reading again. But then the station comes to life and takes out a dozen rebel vessels and a dozen of its own protective Imperial fleet in the process, as though my primary weapon finally lets its presence be known. Not a good thing. A high powered beam of pure energy shoots out from its equatorial church system. Oh, damn, Sap says flatly as the beam just missed, taking the eagle out by mere meters. That's a heavy energy beam. That was so damn close. Anna says, averting her eyes in the eagle's viewport. Dimming system packages. Sorry. Dimming system kicks in to dampen the effects of the near blinding flash of light crossing in front of the eagle. Thankfully, the viewports and monitors on the eagle instantly darken, compensating for the occupants of the cockpit and the crew compartment. Admiral, we need to fall back and regroup now, Land calls out over the radio. Negative, Admiral. If we do, our friends will die on that station. We stay where we are and we fight to the end. Oh, you know what? Let's add that we, so we will add that we. There. Okay. Understood, Admiral Dietrich. Van says, understanding what the German was saying. Come on, kids. You can do this. Win this war for us, thinks himself. Hannah's thinking the same thing as her same thoughts as her two friends. About her two friends. Just as the main weapon fires again, the Greys appear from out of thin air and start cutting into the Imperial fleet. The nasty little cutting weapons they have. All right. You okay, son? Erwin asks Stephen as she dresses a flesh wound to his left leg. He just likes to get hit in the left leg for some reason. It was just glancing below, Mom. I'll be fine, Stephen says through gritted teeth. Guys, I could use some help. Some help. I could really use some help right now, Julia beams out. She takes on a couple of the enhanced troopers single-handed. Erwina helps her son to his feet as they dive back into the fight with the enhanced troopers. Okay. They're much stronger than I thought they were, but they're getting the upper hand thanks to our knowledge of the key. Thankfully, no more troopers were coming into the fray anymore, and leaving Stephen, Julia, and their mother to face off against a dozen of the enhanced troopers. All armed with samurai swords and shoulder-mounted cannons. The body armor is more flexible, almost melded to their bodies as if they were cloned with the armor attached at birth. That's scary to think about. You okay, beloved? Stephen asks as they both stand back to back, swords deployed. I'm good, dear. Julia says as she's a bit winded. But she took out the two troopers single handedly before he and their mother rejoined the fight. While at the same time, their mother is cutting down troopers left and right. Well, I'm not good with that. Forgive my stupid, my weird hand movements. All right, well, go for the midsection. It's their most vulnerable point in their armor. Julie, she beams to them. Understood, Mom. Both kids beam back as they now start cutting through the midsections of the troopers left and right. They cut their way through the enhanced troopers until they are now facing the Emperor, standing in front of the Emperor's chair. Now, Your Excellency, it's just us against you now, Stephen says flatly, sword at the ready. He, Julia, and their mother circle the Emperor, circle the Emperor, well out of range of his long, two-handed, two-bladed samurai sword. The Emperor has a weird, cockeyed looking smile on his face. It's hard to make out if he's smiling thanks to the unusual Y shape of his mouth. But he is. His tiny, razor-sharp, shark-like teeth are showing. Now, Your Excellency, it is just the four of us, Stephen says flatly. Suddenly they took a position. Sorry, change that to take position. God, I can't spell. Take. Sorry. Take a position of attack on the Emperor. On the Emperor. His sword was raised above his head and tilted to the right, but ready to swing down. Bring it on, rebels, the Emperor growls as he takes a defensive posture with his legs spread apart, one leg in front of the other. His double ended sword was at the ready. Both black blades are deployed and prepared to lash out. All right. Stephen swings his amber bladed samurai sword at the Emperor and is deflected by the Emperor's own sword blade. Stephen jumps back as the other end of the sword and his other blade swing through the space Stephen once occupied. Julia does get a hit. Does get a hit with her scimitar bladed samurai sword and wounds the Emperor across the upper arm, his right upper arm. Just a glancing blow. Before he flings her back against her throne chair in a heap using his dark arts powers. Her sword clattering across the floor, blade still active, but she's stunned for only a moment. Erwina nearly comes to her daughter's aid, but Julia waves her off and gets to her feet, retrieving her sword using her telekinesis powers, and Julia is back in the fight as if she wasn't knocked off her feet and flung across the room. But then Stephen strikes at the Emperor's sword hilt and damages one end of the blade. The blade the blade disappears as sparks engulf the hilt, evening the fight for all, angering the Emperor, who tosses Yusa's sword hilt aside after detaching it from the still functioning sword hilt. Okay, I need a drink. Okay. But as Julia is not paying attention to the action, the Emperor gets in a sudden swing of his blade and disarms her left arm just above the elbow. She wails as she falls back, smoke wafting up from the stump where her arm used to be. But seconds later, she's back in the fight, her sword in her one good hand, pink blade still active. She jumps at shoulder height and swings her sword crossbody, decapitating the Emperor in one fell swoop. The body walks forward a few steps and falls lifeless. Lifeless head bounces to rest at Arena's feet, a sinister sneer on his face. Dead. Whoops. The war is over, Arena says, lifting the lifeless head off the floor and looking into the blank, dull eyes. Sorry, this damn thing's getting on my nerves. She now notices the arrival of several Imperial fleet officers as they stand at the main entrance to the throne room. Now what? She asks. We saw what you and the two youngsters did, my lady, one officer says. We often surrender its station and its command to you and the young rebel admiral, unconditionally. Agreed, Commander, Steven says, nodding as the four officers set their pistols down on the console and step away out of arm's reach. Irwina now goes to a console to activate the intership communications and 3D holo emitters, holding up the lifeless head of the Emperor in front of her. Attention, attention, she calls over the communicator as the 3D emitter scans her. It broadcasts her image, holding the Emperor's severed head for all to see. I am Princess Irwina, formerly known as Levnowski, the Dark Ninja. I present myself to all Imperial officers and troopers as I appeared before them. You see me holding the head of the late Emperor Silivanov. He is dead. The war is over. I order the immediate surrender ceasefire of all Imperial forces on the station and in our fleet. All Imperial ship commands are to surrender to the Rebel Alliance at once. Excuse me. As she talks, Stephen tends to Julia and her wound behind her. He's cleaned and dresses. He cleans. He's cleaned and dressed her wound well. Dresses her wound well. How are you doing? He asks her, seeing the pain in her eyes. I've had better days, she says, smiling as he applies pain meds to help her. Interesting twist there. That was something I wanted to add. One more. Allow us to help, Admiral. One of the Imperials says, kneeling next to Stephen. We have a state-of-the-art medical center right here on the station. Sorry, I'm thirsty. Julia smiles and nods as she passes out from the pain meds. Who's watching me? Say something. Say hi. Hiki? Said to see you online. Somebody online at least. I'll just take a little break anyway. So a little sleepy today. A long day. Do it, Commander, please, Stephen says, nodding as well. We promise no funny business either, Admiral. Another officer says, we want an end to this war, bloody and costly war. Does the ceasefire go with the Imperium? Stephen asks flatly, seeing the Imperium commander standing there now, her sidearm sitting on the console beside the others. Admiral Spears, I may be Imperium, but I am still a person, the woman says. I agree to the terms of the ceasefire. Some of my officers may not, but I do. This war has been bloody and costly. This war has been bloody on both sides. Both sides, huh? Steven says. 10 billion dead here, 7 billion dead on Earth, huh? I wish I had been able to stop those tragic events, but they're done. She says, sorrow in her eyes. I see the regret in your eyes, Commander, Steven says, nodding. The commander who commanded the Imperium during the Sol System invasion died on Icania Prime at the hands of some rebel. The officer says, I was given command only a short time before this all happened. Good, then we should have no problems with the Imperium. That answers to you. Rowena asks. Not at all, my lady. Oh, 2 watchers now. The commander says, shaking her head no. As I say, a group of 20 Imperial vessels jumps out of the system. Rogue Imperium, Admiral, the commander says. Think you will be willing to answer some blunt questions from my people, right? Steven asks. I got 2 watchers. Please say hi. Or give me a thumbs up. Of course, sir, the Imperium says, snapping to attention as Admiral Dietrich and Villan walk on to the command bridge of the Dark Star, followed by their guards and the king, who follows his wounded daughter down to the station's medical center. They do take note of that Princess Arwina has handed over her deactivated sword, samurai sword, and now hangs on Steven's gun belt next to his. And she is complying with all commands of the RONI, Rebel Office of Naval Intelligence, as they take the decapitated head of the Emperor and set it in a metal crate, and the body is disposed of in a vacuum of space. Gone. Bye-bye. The RONI leads her away, but not in shackles as she was expecting to be. As she was expected to be, Steven had vouched for her. Who made the killer strike? Villan asks now. Hi, Hiki. I got started late too today. I was actually working out in the yard, so I'm a little tired. Nice to see you, my friend. But don't worry. Did you catch the part where Princess lost her arm? I always like to wait when she answers. I only got like 2 more pages to read in the chapter. I thought I was going to do some more changes to this book and this chapter, and add more stuff. I might do it later on, but what I'm reading is what I have done so far to this chapter. What was originally chapter 4, which would have been at least 10 pages long. I had decided to cut it in half. Now I gotta change chapter 5, real chapter 5 that's in my book, to chapter 6. That's all right. Had a late start too today myself. Right. Back to reading. Let me get a drink. Sorry. Coca-Cola. When a kid, my dad brought home a 10-cent Coke machine. dating back to the 1950s. Yes, I think it was from the 50s. I don't remember. Also, well, he brought home one time we had three jukeboxes, a pinball machine, and a Coke machine. My dad brought home some crazy stuff when I was a little boy. All right, back to the book. And I said, oops, sorry, wrong page. Who made the color strike? Milan asks now. Julia did, sir, Stephen says. She was in a prime position to take the fatal strike. She's a hero, then, Milan says, nodding. If you'll excuse me, sirs, I must go tend to my wife. Milan nods and smiles. Go take care of your wife, kid, Seth says, smiling. Stephen rushes after his wife as she's carried on a floating gurney with her severed arm resting on her stomach as they rush her to the station's medical center. As med techs work fast to preserve the severed limb. The medical center is located some 2 levels below the command deck. There are numerous wounded personnel, both rebel and imperial alike, who are slowly being brought in. Escorted by rebel troops, the Imperials disarmed. War is over. But the ceasefire is working. Yeah, there have been a few incidents, but nothing that turned into a deadly all-out war. Okay. But no one group of wounded is solely Imperial or rebel. They're helping each other as teams, as if there were no war. Scores of real doctors and medical droids attend to the wounded. Several doctors and a couple droids attend to Julia, who has a severed arm is laid in a sterile bath. I think what I'd call that stuff. And another tub, an artificial arm, is constructed using natural cloned tissue, along with biomolecular attachments and structures, but only to be used as the attachment point from the natural bone tissue to the artificial limb where she lost her arm. And in an hour, the limb is completed and ready for attachment to the patient. How's Julia doing? King Alfonso Larkin asks. She's fine, Your Highness. They're about to attach the new limb in moments. I need a drink. Any questions? Any comments? Back to the book. Stephen, I want you to know that I watched the battle between you, Julia, and your mother. Sorry, between you, Julia, your mother, and the Emperor via CCTV. She was brave when she faced the enhanced troopers and the Black Guard, the king says. It appears that she could not deflect that slash that cut her arm off, but thank the Lord that they offered to take her to the medical center here for immediate treatment. The commander was one who offered to take her down here, sir, Stephen says. As they talk, the artificial limb is attached using nanites to complete the final connection with the natural bone and tissue while she sleeps. Still passed out from the pain meds, Stephen watches, concerned for his wife, but happy that she is now a hero of the Rebel Alliance, who is her arm ended the Emperor's reign of terror. So what do you think? A scimitar for a weapon now. I brought that up and I was thinking about that. But I was like, I don't know the different types of sword blades are. I know scimitars, the curved blade, samurai swords. I don't know. They got some curve to them, I think. But I don't know much about weapons, edged weapons, personally. But, uh, but it was her arm that ended the Emperor's reign of terror. Where am I? She asks as she comes around, opening her eyes. You're in the med center on the Dark Star 2, Julia, Steven says as he looks through the port, separating him from her while she lies in an operating room. At the same time, the medical team clean. the medical team cleans up. You now have a new arm once more. Stephen has an artificial leg. Julia has an artificial arm. Both left side, left arm and left leg. Both of them. I don't know why I did that. Julia looks down at her new left arm, lifts it, and flexes her fingers. Sorry. She then repeats the same motion, bending it at the elbow and twisting her wrist. She feels nothing different from what she had before. She remembers the intense pain from when she lost her arm in battle. She slowly sits up as a droid helps her, then stands on the deck of the room. She quickly retrieves her samurai sword, using her telekinesis. It was placed on a table to her left. Right, left. I don't know why left hand. I'm right-handed. Using her own mind to do it. What is going on with the battle? She asks. War is over. We won, princess, her father says, smiling. You killed the emperor. Oh, yeah, she says, smiling as she hefts the small weapon she used to behead the emperor. It's hard to go around, hard to read when you're a little short of a head short of a body. The Imperials even helped you get your new arm, offering to bring you to the station's medical center, Stephen says. Thanks to you, Mother, and me, the Emperor is no longer with us. He literally lost his head when you beheaded him. It's hard to live when you menace a head. And the Imperial fleet, she asks. They surrendered unconditionally or jumped out to points unknown, Stephen says. Many have already offered to switch sides and fight for the rebellion, her father says now. Oh, no, dropped it now. We will work to separate the Empire loyal officers and troops from those who are now loyal to the Rebel Alliance. And there's plenty of both. There are quite a few of us, sir. A medical doctor. I must admit, I am one. But when it comes to the wounded, my loyalties lie where the wounded are, not the Emperor, sir. He shows he is unarmed and shows no effort to harm any wounded rebel troops in his care. As long as you stand your ground and tend to the wounded, no matter what side they fought for, you can continue your work, Doctor, Stephen says, nodding, seeing that both rebel and Imperial wounded are treated equally by the medical staff. And thank you, Major, for your services, sir. It's Admiral Spears. the doctor says as the Admiral and staff walk away. He destroyed the Doctor Star, another doctor says. Yes, he did, but he did not try to destroy the station. The doctor says, nodding. And he showed respect when he allowed us to continue our work on the wounded. Even though I am loyal to the Emperor, he allowed me to tend to his own rebel wounded. And I will not let him lose his faith in me by treating our own forces while ignoring wounded rebels alike. I will ask for permission to serve the new government that will be formed with the end of this God's awful war. I do believe the rebels will accept any officers and troops who wish to switch sides, his assistant says. I'll switch sides too. What are your terms, sir? Fleet Admiral Tyrell Deland asks. All right, give me a second. All right. Last page of chapter 5. Right now, term 1. All Imperial forces are to cease fire, and this war is to end peacefully, Stevens says as both officers sit across from one another at a conference table. Term 2. Turn all Imperium officers and troops loyal to the Emperor over to the RONI immediately. Term 3. Yes. Any officers and troops who wish to switch sides will sign allegiance to the new government now being formed, the new galactic free states. That is all. Let me talk to my government on Ukraine Prime, sir, Deland says. It'll take time to get a response. May I have that time? You have as long as you need it, Admiral, sir. Stephen says, nodding as he hands over the data pad across the table to the Imperial Admiral. And both men rise to their feet and reach out across the table to shake hands as they sit in Stephen's private quarters on the Hornet. I have word from higher up that you and your people are given as long as it takes to go over these terms. I am not pushing any time frame, but please be prompt, though. Sorry. Excuse me. Understood, Admiral Spears. Deland says, nodding his head, nodding as he takes the data pad, and they shake hands. I want you to know that I was on Orion. You and your forces defended your base there, and I do respect you. You lead from the front. You are the youngest person on either side to reach the Admiralty at the age of 20. That's a young age for an Admiral. And I understand why you lead from the front. Why you do not lead from a desk, you lead from the front. You let your people use initiative. You do not micromanage. Thank you, Admiral, Stephen says. I take that as a compliment. It was meant that way, Stephen, the Admiral says. The Imperial Admiral says, if I may call you that. I understand you hate formalities, and so do I. I prefer to be referred to as either Stephen or Admiral. Stephen says, nodding. That's why my fellow admirals and I will only speak with you, Stephen, Deland says. You show no animosity towards your enemies, especially after what happened to your world and your wife. And why should I? What happened, Stephen says. He leads the Admiral to his personal shuttle to be escorted by a special flight of Vipers and Scorpions back to the Dark Star 2. The Admiral returns to the station with what appears to be a promising peace plan to end the war and stop the killing of more beings across the galaxy. And that is chapter 5. Whew. That was a fun book. This is interesting. So the war is over. Rebels win, Another two destroyed worlds, unfortunately. So I just like the little snags in the story. I can change that to chapter 6. Okay. Yeah, today I started a little late because I was out in the yard working, cleaning up the yard and raking leaves. Oh, I hate raking leaves. We had two big trees in our yard next to the house that just, I hate leaves. Thankfully, oh, three quarters of my yard, 3 quarters, surrounded by trees on three sides, up both sides and back of the house. Have trees around them. I'm gonna wait till I get done reading book 4, then I'll start working on book 5. Just want to let you know, hey Hiki, and whoever else is watching me, please say something. Say hi. I don't bite. I nibble. No, you're welcome, my friend. Oh, it was a good day. I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna thank you for watching. Glad I could see you and catch me today. I don't think chapter 6 will be too much. I don't know how many pages chapter 6 is. The new chapter 6. Bye, my friend. Probably see you again when we got a note when Nick is online. You have a good day, my friend. Thank you for watching again. I hope you enjoy this. And hopefully soon I can get started on book 5, but I'm still working on ideas. I don't have anything. I got some ideas, but I don't know what I'm going to for book 5. But you have a good day, my friend. You take care. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with a new chapter 6. Well, it's actually chapter 5 before I changed it. That was just a spread of the moment decision to rewrite this. But I ain't gonna tell you how this ends. It ends with a cliffhanger, though. The book title will give you an idea of how the book ends. But I ain't gonna give you any details, any hints. Well, the hint is the book title, but okay, I'm talking too much. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.